This happened a few years ago, when I was working as a pizza delivery driver. At that time, I was around 22 years old, and honestly, I never thought that a normal pizza delivery would become the scariest experience of my life. I actually liked working night shifts. The roads were empty, the traffic was low, and everything felt peaceful. Most of the deliveries were completely normal. Someone would open the door, take their food, say thank you, and I would leave for my next order. But one night, my last delivery was different, and at that moment, I had no idea that night would stay in my memory forever. It was around 11:40 p.m. My shift was almost over. I remember thinking, let me finish this last order and then I'll go home. I looked at the delivery screen. The address was in a normal residential neighborhood. Nothing unusual, just a regular house. The order was simple. One large pizza, some wings, and a drink. I picked up the order and started driving. The location was about 15 minutes away from the restaurant. As I got closer to the area, I noticed something. The streets were completely empty. No people outside. No cars passing by. Just quiet roads and streetlights. When I finally reached the address, the house looked completely normal. The porch light was on. A car was parked in the driveway, and I could see the glow of a TV through the window. Someone was definitely inside. I grabbed the pizza bag and walked up to the door. I rang the bell. A few seconds passed. No answer. I rang it again. Still nothing. I was about to call the customer when suddenly the door opened. A man was standing there. He looked like he was in his late 40s. He was smiling, but I don't know why. Something about that smile felt strange. It didn't feel like a normal "thank you for bringing my food" smile. It felt different. He looked at the pizza box. Then he looked at me, and the first thing he asked was, "Do you always deliver this late at night?" I thought it was a little weird, but I just answered, "Sometimes. It depends on my shift." He stared at me for a few seconds, then slowly smiled again and said, "Interesting. People usually don't stay this long." I didn't understand what he meant. I thought maybe he was just a strange customer, so I handed him the pizza. But instead of taking it, he stepped back and said, "Come inside for a minute." That was the first moment when I felt something was wrong. I politely refused. I said, "Sorry, I still have other deliveries to finish." He stayed quiet for a few seconds. Then he nodded and said, "All right." I turned around and started walking back to my car. But before I reached the door, he stopped me. "Wait." I turned around and he asked, "What's your name?" I don't know why, but that question didn't feel normal. It felt like he wasn't just asking my name. It felt like he wanted to remember me. I told him my name, and his smile became bigger. Then he quietly said, "Good. Now I know who brought my pizza tonight." At that moment, I got a strange feeling inside. I didn't say anything. I just walked back to my car. But when I opened the car door, I looked back at the house one more time, and what I saw made me freeze for a few seconds. The man wasn't eating the pizza. He was standing near the window, watching me leave. And at that moment, I had no idea that this wasn't just a strange customer. It was the beginning of the worst delivery experience of my life. I quickly got inside my car and drove away without looking back. But honestly, that man's face was stuck in my mind. That strange smile, and the way he said, "Now I know who brought my pizza tonight." I kept telling myself, maybe I was just thinking too much. Maybe he was just a strange person, nothing more. But when I reached back to the restaurant, my manager was closing everything. I casually asked him, "Has anyone ordered from that area before?" The moment I told him the address, his expression suddenly changed. He looked at me and asked, "You went there?" I was confused. I said, "Yeah, why?" He stayed quiet for a few seconds. Then he said, "We have received complaints about that house before." My hands stopped. I asked, "What kind of complaints?" He hesitated for a moment, then said, "Just strange behavior. Some delivery drivers said that man makes them feel uncomfortable." At first, I thought maybe that was the whole thing. Maybe he was just a weird customer. But then my manager said something else, something that bothered me even more. "Honestly, you're lucky." I looked at him and asked, "Why?" He said, "Because some people don't want to go back to that area after delivering there once." That night, I went home, but I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about that house, that man, and the way he was watching me through the window. The next morning, I decided to find out more about that address. I searched online, but I couldn't find anything useful. Then I found an old neighborhood forum. Some people had posted about that house. Some people said the owner was strange. Some said he behaved differently with visitors. But one comment caught my attention. And someone had written, "Don't go inside that house." That was it. No explanation, no details, nothing. I thought maybe people were just exaggerating. Maybe it was only a rumor. But then I got a notification on my phone. It was a message from that customer. The message said, "You left something behind." My heart started beating faster. I replied, "What?" A few seconds later, he replied, "Your name." I didn't understand. Then he sent a picture. The moment I opened it, my hands started shaking. It was a picture from inside his house. On the wall, there were many things hanging. Delivery receipts from different restaurants, different dates, different names, and the most terrifying part, my delivery receipt was there too, with my name written underneath it. That's when I realized that man wasn't just collecting food deliveries, he was collecting something else. I immediately thought about calling the police. But before I could, another message came. "You refused to come inside. That's why you are still safe." I felt cold all over. Then another message appeared. "But next time, you might not be so lucky." I blocked the number immediately. And after that, I never worked another night delivery shift again, even today. Whenever I get a call from an unknown number late at night, I remember that house. But the strangest part is, a few months later, I drove through that neighborhood again, and I saw that house. It looked completely normal, just like before, except for one thing. Through the window, I could see a new pizza box sitting on a table, and on top of it, there was a delivery receipt. It said, "Next delivery." Waiting. Even now, I still don't know what was really happening inside that house. Maybe that man was just dangerous, or maybe something much worse was going on there. But if you were in my place, would you have gone inside that house? Tell me your thoughts in the comments. Because even after all these years, I still don't know what I actually experienced that night. This happened a few years ago when I was living in the United States. At that time, my life was completely normal. I had a regular job, and after work I usually spent most of my time at home. I was never the type of person who got scared easily. I always believed that there was a simple explanation for everything. But one night, something happened that made me feel uncomfortable inside my own home. It was a cold night during winter. It was around 10:30 p.m. I was sitting in my living room watching TV. Outside it was freezing, and the whole neighborhood was completely quiet. Then suddenly, my doorbell rang. I thought maybe it was a neighbor, or maybe someone had accidentally pressed the wrong doorbell. I usually checked my camera before opening the door. When I looked at the camera, I saw a delivery driver standing outside. He was holding a food bag. At first, I thought maybe it was someone else's order. But then I noticed something strange. He was standing directly in front of my door. I opened the door. The delivery driver looked at me and asked, "Is this your order?" I said, "Sorry, but I didn't order anything." He looked confused. He checked something on his phone. Then he said, "Are you sure? Because this is the address and the name matches." That made me even more confused. I asked him to show me the order details. He turned his phone toward me, and when I looked, I froze for a second. The address was mine. The apartment number was mine. And the name was my name. I thought maybe someone had made a mistake. I told him maybe someone used my address by accident. He said, "Yeah, maybe." He took the order back and walked away. I thought that was the end of it. I locked the door and went back to watching TV. But something felt wrong because I knew I never ordered anything. About 10 minutes later, my doorbell rang again. This time, I don't know why, but I had a strange feeling. I immediately checked the camera. There was nobody outside. I stood there for a few seconds, then slowly opened the door, and outside, the same delivery bag was sitting there. My first thought was, maybe the driver came back, but the camera showed nobody. I picked up the bag. Inside was a receipt. Everything looked normal, same order, same address, same name. But on the back of the receipt, there was something written by hand. A small message. "I know you're home." At that moment, my hands went cold, because this didn't feel like a wrong delivery anymore. Someone knew that I was inside my house. I immediately grabbed my phone and started checking the security footage, and what I saw scared me even more. A few seconds after the delivery driver left, another man walked up to my porch. He stood outside my door for a while, like he was checking if someone was home. But the strangest part was, he never rang the doorbell. He just stood there and then disappeared into the darkness. That night, for the first time, I felt like maybe that delivery wasn't just a delivery, but the real truth. I found out the next day when I showed the footage to the police. That night, the first thing I wanted to do was call the police, but before that, I decided to check the security footage and delivery details. The next morning, I went straight to the security office of my apartment building. I told them everything that happened. The security guard pulled up the camera footage. We both watched the screen quietly. The footage showed exactly what happened. The delivery driver arrived, dropped off the order, and left. But a few seconds later, another man appeared on the camera. He slowly walked toward my door and stood there for a while. The security guard paused the video and asked me, "Do you know this person?" I said, "No." He zoomed in on the footage and then said, "Wait." He pointed something out. The man wasn't looking at the camera. He wasn't looking around. He was looking directly at my apartment door, like he was waiting for something. I immediately reported everything to the police. They told me there was a possibility that someone was watching my apartment. But the biggest question was, why did someone send a delivery order using my name and address? The police contacted the delivery company, and after a few days, they found some information. The order was placed through a prepaid account. There was no proper information attached to it. But there was one thing that made me even more uncomfortable. The order was placed exactly at the time when I was already inside my apartment. That meant someone had done it on purpose, just to confirm that I was home. After that incident, I upgraded my security. I installed another camera, and I became much more careful at night. I thought that was the end of it. But a few weeks later, one night, my doorbell rang again. My heart immediately started racing. I checked the camera. Nobody was outside. I stood there for a few seconds. Then I grabbed my phone and checked the recording. This time, there was a delivery bag sitting outside my door, but there was no delivery driver. I didn't open the door. I just watched it through the camera. A few minutes later, I received a message from an unknown number. The message said, "You finally learned not to open the door." At that moment, I realized something. That person wasn't just trying to scare me. He was watching how I reacted. After that, I left the apartment and moved somewhere else. Even today, whenever my doorbell rings late at night, the first thing I do is check the camera. Because now I know not every delivery is just a delivery. Sometimes someone is only trying to find out who's inside the house. And the strangest part is, I still don't know who that person was. If you were in my place and you found a delivery bag outside your door like that, would you open it? Or would you call the police without touching it? Tell me your thoughts in the comments, because even after all these years, I still don't know who was really standing outside my door that night.